update. Scott Faughn, publisher of the Missouri Times, host of This Week in Missouri Politics. We're coming to you from our Jefferson City studios. And I got a guy making a little news this week. Let's bring him in, Kelton. Taylor Burks, running for Congress here in Central Missouri. Taylor, thank you for the time.
Thanks for having me on, Scott.
All right, let's just talk hogs, dogs, and logs. You're in for this congressional seat, right?
Yep, jumped in on Monday, running full bore, full speed ahead, as we say in the Navy, and
You gave
really
a hell of a
excited about
speech
what
at
we're doing.
Lincoln Day. Hell of a
Yeah,
speech.
I appreciate that. And you and I talked a little bit afterwards. It's one of those things where you see what goes on in politics today, and half the time people say something without having any perspective on what it is. And I just talked about what I've done with my life, and I think that matters.
No, I mean, personally, the speech was very good, very authoritative. Your background as a veteran, right?
That's right. 17 years in the U.S. Navy.
All right, let's talk a little politics here. My
Okay.
old buddy, Missouri Mapper, mapped the district out.
I love it.
I
That
gotta
guy's
find
brilliant too. Just the work he's done and the analysis he does for the
amazing,
public
isn't it?
interest is amazing.
And I don't know. I mean, I've started to check myself. I actually have no idea who this person is. I'm not shitting you. I have no clue who this person is. But I mean, the work they do is just. I mean, could be a Democrat, could be a Republican. I've traded some emails, and even in the email it says Missouri Mapper. But I mean, it's one of the things I really enjoy looking at. We talked via email a while back about what would the maps that I was really looking for that I don't have the expertise to make, but obviously this person does. And I said, look, every election's a primary now. There are no generals, right? There,
Right.
You'll have the one in state senate and independence this fall, but for the most part, there are no generals. It's like the primary vote share. So I'm looking here. Let's just talk a little bare nose politics. The Missouri's third, according to Missouri Mapper, who, if you're better than Missouri Mapper, I want to see it. 32% of this vote, or 31.6% of the vote, is in St. Charles County. Obviously, that's the base. You got 8% down in Jeffco, a little bit in Crawford, Washington. Good folks down there, by the way. And then obviously Gasconade, the home of Herman, the German American capital of Missouri, comes in at 3%. But over here, where you'd have some votes, Boone County has got 7%, Cole County 14%, Callaway County, that includes Fulton's 5.5%. So if you look at it, you've got about 27% in this, and I really think you throw Cooper and Montauk kind of in that space.
Right.
When you do the math, you've got about I would say 55% would be in the Central Missouri media market. That's your ticket to victory, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We only have a path to success if Central Missouri is united against whatever comes out of St. Louis.
So it's an interesting. Bob Onder has wanted to run for Congress since I met the man when he was a state rep. He ran in 2008. Bob has an absolute passion for federal issues. I mean, if you ever talk about it, when you talk to Bob Onder, the conversation won't get long until you're talking about something at the federal level.
Right.
I love the passion he has for it. He's from St. Charles, right? And the fact is, I think it's gonna be very interesting to see in this campaign. It's hard to meet people over in the suburbs, right? I mean, you could meet them, but folks in the suburbs don't want you coming by their house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I don't that'll be it'll be a lot of door knocking, but it's a kind of an impersonal, bland area. You know what I mean? So it'll be very expensive over there. The media market over there is very expensive. But they're going to come to Central Missouri, and I'm interested. I'm going to have Senator Onder on. I've known him for a long time. I actually remember putting in some signs back in the day for that Onder race. Looking back on it, what would be the case you'd be worried about if Bob Onder came over to the Cole County? What would his pitch that would worry you be?
I mean, quite frankly, I'm happy to stand on my own background, my own upbringing, where I grew up. Being a fifth generation Missouri farm kid goes a lot further in Central Missouri among our small business owners, our farmers here, than a doctor lawyer from St. Louis coming to this neck of the woods. So I think I'm pretty proud to stand on what that is and let voters here in Central Missouri see that. The flip side is I think that they have more to worry about me going to St. Louis area. The things I talk about are the things that every primary voter in the GOP is concerned about: national security, border security, budgets. That's what I've done with my whole life, my whole career in the Navy and in the private sector now. And so that's that's really where the challenge for these St. Louis candidates is they can't come here very well, but I can go there every single day and talk the issues that St. Charles or Jefferson County care about.
Well, every vote you get over there is a found vote, right? I
That's
mean, you
right.
go into this assuming you got to figure I got to be able to win this race before I ever get east of Wentzville, right?
Right. That's right.
So every vote you pick up is a found one for you.
It's gravy. Yep. It's gravy.
So you Cinder Coleman, big political talent,
Yeah.
big talent. But you tell me, I think it's going to be a little bit of a hard sell to say, okay, you live in Arnold, which is right there by St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get your head around how she could care about California, right?
No, that's right. What I have looked at the map is, Senator Coleman lives closer to Illinois than she lives to the district. And as much as I respect her ability in the state capital, I have a hard time.
She's a hell of a politician. I mean, I'll tell you, she's a hell of a politician.
That's right. Why, though, with the 750,000 people who do live in the district, we can't find someone of our own to represent us in Washington, D.C.? And that's
going to
really
be a compelling argument. It's going to take all of her political talent to kind of maneuver around that. Because, I mean, Cinder Onder, I think he now does, I see he put some pictures up on Twitter, beautiful pictures of a farm down in southern St. Charles. I think because he represented St. Charles and spent most of his life living in the suburbs. I mean, hell, you don't know what town you're in. It's just one exit of bland vinyl siding to the next. I don't think Cinder Onder, well, if I had to guess today, he doesn't currently live there. I don't think he's going to have that problem because he's represented that area. He's very well identified with the folks there. I see if I'm the two of them, Cinder Onder, I like my battlefield better than if I'm Cinder Coleman right now.
Sure. I think that's right. I think that's somewhat fair. But the other reality is who in St. Charles knows exactly where they live anyway, to your point.
Sure.
But when you come west of Wentzville, people certainly do know. They know if you're from outside the district, or they know if you're from St. Louis, or they know if you're from, a farm in Mid-Mo.
All right. The way this divvies up, my assumption is Cinder Onder will have the fundraising lead. He's got the ability, the contacts, his brother. I think it'd be hard for anybody to outraise him, but Cinder Coleman's a very good fundraiser.
Yeah.
She said she had 200,000 already, committed. And, you never know exactly when committed. That's a tough thing if you're on the end that reads this stuff all day. But I would say she wouldn't put that number out if she didn't have something pretty close to that was, she doesn't want to file a report after she said she had 200 and have 80. So I figure there's somewhere near there.
Yeah.
What do you need how much? You don't need to raise as much as they do because the media market where you're getting your votes is what, 60% as expensive as the St. Louis media market. What do you need to raise?
The rate. So what I say is we raised nearly $1 million last cycle, and we invested a lot in our small dollar donor base. And those are assets that we're bringing forward. I think that in this 6-month campaign or this 6-month race, we'll be pretty close to what we raised last cycle without having to do the upfront fundraising investment that we did a year and a half ago in the fourth.
So you raised $1 million last time, but look, I mean, let's just talk hogs, dogs, and logs. I mean, the way to calculate the cabbage is you got whipped with a pencil.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were living outside that district by the time it was over. It just, I mean, you ran a great race. I think you probably ran the best campaign. But I mean, you looking back on that, when the maps were come out in May, which you'd already been running, you'd already had donor. I mean, it was the timing was terrible, and I don't know that you got whipped at the ballot box. You got whipped with a map maker in the Capitol. Is what I know.
That's exactly right. The lines were drawn, and I had conversations with state legislators who said one of the candidates in the race, the only thing they cared about in voting on the maps was that Sarah Walsh and I were drawn outside of the district, and they were going to vote for the map regardless of 6271. Their concern was that we were drawn outside of the district. One, that shows you what a threat I am to folks in Jefferson City who want to climb that next rung in their political career.
Well, I mean, ambition is one thing. I mean, there's been every 10 years, aspiring state legislators look to draw their own congressional district.
Right.
That happens all over the state every time there's a census.
Yeah, but let's be honest about it. Like, let's not pretend that we've got this 7-1-6-2 priority.
Oh, that was all
real
bullshit.
Priority is you want your own congressional district.
Of course, and I always kind of liked ambition, but I mean, the truth is, yes, I think the people saw you as a very serious contender in that race, and they drew it to disadvantage you. I mean, I don't think looking back on it. I mean, I think Congressman Alford, to be honest with you, You can't fault the job he's doing. He's doing a hell of a job, but I think even now he would admit the folks that were supporting him would say, yeah, we drew that to keep Taylor Burks, make it a hard way to go. I mean, I don't, they're
right.
serious people,
So when voters did go to the ballot box, I won mid-Missouri. I won the counties around Fort Leonard Wood, or came a close second in those areas. And that's what's natural in the 3rd district. So you talk about the funds that we need. You talk about the base that I already have. My base of support wasn't in question. It's why I was drawn out of the 4th. But here we are 2 years later, and I've been drawn into the 3rd.
All right, now and you're Hallsville man, right? Ashland. Okay, so that is in the district, right?
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about what really may happen here. My gut tells me there'll be some old boy watching Fox News in St. Louis sometime in the next month or so, and he'll say, "Oh, I think I could do that," and a wealthy gal jump in from St. Louis. Now that I don't know who, I've heard rumblings. I would say that's a possibility. Number two, I would say if I had to guess, there's more likely to be a significant self-funder, legitimate candidate pop out of the St. Louis media market than the Central Missouri one. But over here, Kurt Schaefer's talked about running. Let me just ask you the real question. There's 2 questions that pop up from this. Number one, I think Cole County, Jeff City folks have a little rivalry with Columbia. That Columbia, I don't think takes it as seriously, but I do think that's you being from Ashland makes it a little easier. I do think a Columbia person would have a little issue in Cole County because of this natural rivalry. How do you overcome that?
Well, I mean, part of that is you can smell Columbia a mile away, the People's Republic, when you walk into Jefferson City. And that's not my upbringing. We're raising our boys in Ashland because of the problems that we see in Columbia. But the other part of this is, you noted, and you and I talked a month and a half ago when this first came up. And I said, I don't have to be the candidate. I do believe that we need one strong Central Missouri candidate. I still believe that. And so we
could not have played that more gentlemanly, or in my opinion, with more political savvy. I think it was very fair that you gave every single person, serious candidate, look at it, be it Caleb Browden or Travis Fitzwater, a very long runway to make a decision. I thought that was extremely savvy how you handled that.
Well, I appreciate it, but I genuinely meant it, Scott. I've got 3 little boys. I'm in the private sector and doing a lot of things that I enjoy doing, but I also care about service. And I have a really tough time thinking we don't have a strong voice from Central Missouri who can represent this district. So the runway I gave was legitimate, but now here we are a week out from filing. And the question was, who is our candidate to speak for rural Missouri on national issues that I can't talk about? And that's really why I hopped into this race, was to do those things that I don't think anyone else wanted to do a month ago when we started to really put pieces in place.
So it does seem like for Central Missouri, there will be a money deficit probably for the Central Missouri candidate. There's just more money over in St. Louis. Do you guys need to get in a room and figure this out? I mean, it looks to me like Senator Coleman, very viable candidate. Senator Onder, obviously, very viable candidate. More likely, they have a barnacle attached to their neck of the woods, more so than the Central Missouri. One Central Missouri candidate would be the favorite.
Yeah.
Can you guys, maybe even Congressman Luke Tameyer, get in a room and figure out who the best candidate is?
Sure. And again, I've done this from day one. I called all of the state senators that you talked about. Senator Schaefer and I have had open dialogue, and I very much respect what he's done in Boone County. I mean, if you remember 16 years ago, we had Chuck Graham as our state senator, and Kurt took out Chuck and what was a pretty bad legislative record, I think. And so I don't disrespect Senator Schaefer, but as of today, he's not running. And that's
well, I mean, there ain't a smarter old boy. I don't know that I know anybody smarter than Kurt Schaefer. I mean, the guy would be a good comment. The way I look at it is this. You're going to be 10 years. Whoever wins this race is going to be 10 years before they have an active role in much, right? But the one thing you can do that actually impacts folks' lives is bring back our tax dollars. Now, to me, I mean, the government borrows money from China that Gussie and Gussie's kids are going to have to pay back. We should at least get that money back here. If we're going to be taxed for it, and our grandkids are on the hook for the debt they run up, at least we should get our share back here. And I guess to me it comes down to I don't know just as I don't know how you'd make the case for folks in St. Charles that you would wake up every day caring that you're going to take care of them. I don't know how anybody from St. Louis can make the case that they want to care about anything west of Wentzville.
Yeah, well, I hope you understand, or I'm sure you do know, Scott, that growing up on a farm, I do care about Central Missouri, but the actual issues that I've dedicated my life, when you talk border security or national security, those are things that I've lived, and those are things that people in St. Charles do care about. So I said it at the top of the meeting that going eastward towards St. Charles, the things that I do represent and speak for are things that voters in those suburbs care about just as much as we do in Mid-Mo.
You got a big Boeing plant that a lot of folks, I mean, that if I understand the district right, it runs right up to the edge of the city of St. Charles, right? On that
That's
north
right.
end.
Yep.
I mean, you got a lot of Boeing employees that depend on, well, I mean, I guess what I ask you is when you go to Congress, I know you'll be fighting for all these other issues that people put on Facebook. You going to bring home our tax dollars here to Central Missouri that we pay?
Well, and that's the important part about what this district represents. It's a huge cornerstone for our military base, our defense industry, Boeing. But there are a lot of subcontractors that are in St. Louis area that need a voice who understands what their industry, what their challenges are. And it's not just talking points of, foreign aid. I get questions about Ukraine, Russia, China, those things. These are actual jobs. These are actual supply chains.
We have a tri-level here in Jeff City that needs fixed, and I don't know that MoDOT ever has the money on their own to fix it. It's whether anybody likes it or not. If you want to change the dynamic, you want to go up there and cut taxes and cut spending, God bless you. But right now in reality land, the tri-level needs fixed, and I don't know that the state ever has enough money on their own to do it. It's going to take a federal appropriation. Luckily, we're citizens of the United States of America here too, and we get taxed. It's something our member of Congress would likely take the lead in.
Yeah, and we do have to wrap our arms around appropriations and spending, but there's some spending that's just essential to our national security and our infrastructure that make a lot of sense. And you have to have a legislator who can go to Congress and rather than throw elbows within our own party, has to be able to come to consensus, come to an agreement, and make sure that this country is still running. And that's what my commitment is to the 3rd District.
Well, I appreciate the time. Going to be an interesting campaign season. This 3rd District made it all the more interesting. I really love seeing the folks that spoke and come up and thanked Congressman Luke Tamayer. What a statesman! I mean, when you really think, take Congress out of it. What a person in government looking out for the needs of the many should be. I mean, Blaine Luke Tamayer is just that guy.
Yeah, after that meeting, I think the line stretched to Blair Oaks to meet with Blaine and tell him what a great job he's doing. And we're in that camp as well.
Oh, let me just ask you, you're not some Starbucks drinking Prius driver, are you?
No, I have a pickup.
Thank God. Yeah, that's that. We had a good time in Cole County. Those are good folks. Yeah. You would talk about the folks. It's flashy today to be a keyboard warrior and whine on the internet. You want to talk about the folks that actually did the work back when I can remember when they had Democrats in the courthouse during my professional lifetime. And when they, these were seats that were very hotly contested. Now they're not. The Cole County Republicans, Carolyn, that whole crew, they even Mayor Fitzwater, who's probably cut more waste, fraud, and abuse out of government than any Republican at any level, maybe in the history of the damn state. But they have a lot of great things going on. It's exciting to talk about a Central Missouri candidate. Hope you'll come visit with us as the race unfolds.
Yeah, absolutely will.
Thanks, sir.
Hey, thanks, Scott.
All right, let's Taylor Burks. I'm telling you, give a hell of a speech in Lincoln Day. The veteran part is a big deal. I think that's if he's the only veteran, that's a good card to play. I think it's going to come down to this. I think it's pretty clear Senator Coleman's running. It's clear from the jump Senator Onder's been running. So when it comes down to it, I think Bob probably if I was doing the figures here, I'd rather be Bob Onder in this race than Mary Elizabeth Coleman, either because of my independent wealth I can put into the race, or because of the playing field I've ran there before in St. Charles. I think he's got a little bit better claim. Sometimes, though, let's be honest, Bob gets fired up a lot. Bob could, if Bob's fired up, you don't want to be in the path of that. And so I'm sure some folks in St. Charles County have been in the path of that. So I could see some folks, maybe an alternative like Senator Coleman would be there. But if I'm the two of the St. Louis candidates, I definitely think I'd rather be Senator Onder just with the playing field he has. Now, Senator Coleman probably has the most political skill. And so she's a very viable candidate. I think I mean, if you're her, I say you want to come in a good second in St. Charles. Then you want to try to come in a good second everywhere else. I remember Russ Carnahan when he ran against former Senator Jeff Smith. Russ Carnahan, I don't know if he won anywhere. Steve Stoll ran. They had some good candidates. I think Russ Carnahan just kind of took second in all the areas or most of the areas, and he won. And you know what they call the guy that comes in second at the end of the day, Kelton, but has the most votes when they count them all up?
It sounds like a loser to me.
No, they call him congressman. If you come in second everywhere, but when they tally the votes, you have the most, even though you didn't win any counties, you're called congressman, right?
I guess so.
So if you're Senator Coleman, I mean, you might win that little part of Jeffco, but if you could very well win this race coming in second everywhere, but when they count the votes, you're in first. And, it's like people that complain about Jay Ashcroft running on his dad's name. Well, you know what they call the governor of Arkansas who ran on her dad's name? They call her governor. So we'll see. Let's talk about IP reform. All right, I'm writing a piece for this. It's going to go out today. You want to talk state Senate races first? You want to talk IP reform?
We should do state Senate races first.
We had you guys always know our friend Flat Doug. Flat Doug and I always see eye to eye. He's a really intelligent person who always agrees with me, which in my book makes him very smart. We had actual 3D Doug here yesterday. We talked state Senate races. He was tired. I kept him too long. You'd be surprised, folks. When you sit in here and talk and bullshit for 20 minutes, you're fine. 30. When you get into 45, especially when you've had to stay up all night. I mean, Doug was a real friend coming in. Let's talk. Let's kind of review what he said. So, I think Doug's fine. I think Maggie Nurnberg's fine. They're going to start this. I think Stephen Weber's fine. I would rank them as Doug's the most safe because you're not going to beat Doug in South County, even though he'll cry poverty that his district got rough for. I don't believe it. Even with Donald Trump on the ballot, I think Doug Beck wins. I don't think people in South County view Doug as a woke Democrat. I think they view him as a Dick Gephardt, Jay Nixon winner, Claire McCaskill winner Democrat, Scott Sifton type winner. I mean, Scott Sifton had a tough district, flipped the district to blue. He's a damn good politician. He was as liberal as anybody here, but he was not going to do things that pissed off South County. He was going to do common sense Democrat things with a liberal philosophy. And that's kind of Doug. And people didn't view Scott Sifton as woke, and they don't view Doug Beck as woke. He'll win. That'll leave him at 8. Maggie Nurnberg, I think, holds. I mean, they've had a tough time getting a candidate. The Republicans have. I think Lauren Arthur fundamentally changed that. And Maggie Nurnberg's a damn fine candidate. She just is. So I think that gets him to 9. Stephen Weber in Columbia, I just don't see anybody beating him. The older person that could have had this type of effect is Brian Treese. If Brian Treese would have ran, the Republicans couldn't have beat Brian. I don't think they can beat Weber. I don't know they even have got a candidate they've coalesced behind yet, which is another sign. It's kind of like with Maggie Nurnberg. If somebody thought they could beat her, they'd have been running a long time ago. And I know there's a candidate that's filed, but I think he's even kind of admitted I might not. So that gets the Democrats to 10. 11 is Robbie Sauls holding John Rizzo's seat. Look, I think if Nicole is a serious threat in that primary, Joe Nicole is a serious candidate. If he wins that primary, yes, I think Robbie Sauls probably wins and saves the Democrats some money. If it's Aaron McMullen, I think Aaron McMullen's tough to beat. I think that's going to come down to national trends. Is Trump still as popular with the demographic and independents as he has been the last 2 times he's ran? If he is, I think McMullen's favored. If some of that luster's lost, if folks are still pissed about it, if that IP's on, that abortion IP's on in November, there you are. That's a tougher headwind. I think Robbie's got an edge. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be an interesting race. The general elections are we're a very nationalized state anymore. And seeing how that works in a swing area like Independence will be very interesting. We'll try to get old Victor Kellen in here. Nobody knows more about winning votes there than he does one day and visit with him about it. Projecting out, if they win that, they're going to need a good night for Democrats. Looks like them winning the Independence seat. Is that the 13th or the 11th? I never can remember. I think maybe Lawrence is the 17th. I don't remember. Koenig is 15, then maybe like Rizzo's in there is 11. Razor's 9. Maybe Barb is 7, some of that effect. Anyway, one of those two. The number doesn't really matter. It gets them to 11, and then that's a good night for Missouri Democrats if they hold their 10 and pick up Boone County, which in this case is really like hold their 10, including Boone County because of the redistricting, and then hold Rizzo's. That's a very good night for Missouri Democrats. Be 23 to 11. Now you're getting into Kelton. If a Republican gets appointed to something or dies or can't be here, then a table of 4 senators can hold up stuff. for Republicans. Now that's getting reasonable. Now let's say it's a really good night for Democrats. Let's say Trump falls flat on his face. And I'm telling you, the epicenter for Trump falling flat on his face would be Chesterfield. David Gregory probably wins any race he was the primary of. Mark Carter, I think you see Mark Carter's challenge is fundraising, right? So if Mark Carter wins the primary, the party will do all the fundraising. So we don't have to fundraise anymore. I think Mark Carter with Jim Bolin, I just don't know him that well. He's got Barkley, so that, anybody that's got David Barkley who's giving advice is a viable candidate. I've heard he's a door-knocking machine, Wildwood mayor. So, I mean, legitimate candidate. If I had to rank him, and you'll see on the tip sheet this week, Gregory clearly has the advantage. He can raise money. He looks like Flynn Rider from the Rapunzel card, doesn't he? I mean, he kind of does, right?
Yeah, he does now.
He's got a new baby, him and his wife. But I think Flynn Rider, a.k.a. David Gregory, is the favorite, just he can raise money. I think David coming to your door. If Flynn Rider knocked on my door, I'd remember it. Harder, you can't count him out. I mean, the guy's won a county council seat out there several times. Bolin, I guess from the Democrats, I want Bolin, right, Kelton? I mean,
that's what I would do if I were
But
them.
you got to keep in mind, in a general election, the money won't matter. Cindy O'Loughlin will send whatever money's needed. Peerless, hell of a candidate. The Democrats, they grabbed a legit recruit there. It's like when they were trying to replace, was it Caskey, and the Republicans got Koster. Hell of a recruit, and Koster won the Senate seat for the Republicans. But I'm telling you, hell of a recruit there in Peerless. That's going to make that. And I think look, the Republican starts off with an advantage there. I know he said McCaskill won it by like 1%. Historically, the fundraising advantage, I'd rather be the Republican, but Peerless, you get a Peerless and maybe Bolin. Again, I just don't know Bolin that well. You get a Peerless Bolin matchup. Okay, now I'm seeing it. St. Charles, the mystery candidate, I don't know who it is. So you can't, you see Doug get coy with his face. Also, let me tell you something about Doug Beck. This is the damnedest thing about Doug Beck. Doug Beck, if you come and find him at 1 a.m. somewhere, if he's leaving a meeting or something, the guy is dressed perfectly. His hair is perfect. His suit's perfect. And then the next morning at 7 a.m., you see him at breakfast. Hair is perfect. Suit is perfect. It almost just sucks. It almost ticks you off. Because there's no reason the guy should be that well put together at both 1 o'clocks, right? Or a 1 a.m. and a 7 a.m. No one should be that well dressed and put together at both of those times. You should either be rolling at 1 and dragging at 7, or in bed at 1 and then you're up bushy. You're up not bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You're up Doug Beck-eyed and bushy-tailed at 7. There's something. I'm almost maybe he inhaled some of that insulation or something, and it was like had the Spider-Man effect. So I think a good night for Republicans, obviously, is to pick up the 11th. I think it's the 11th in Independence. A fair night for the Republicans would be to lose Rizzo's seat in Boone County, and then Kelton's about to be a know-it-all here and drop the.
It is the 11th.
The 11th.
Right.
I knew I'd pull it out. If I just kept guessing numbers, you're bound to hit one. Good night for the Democrats is to hold Rizzo and get to 11 state Senate seats. Good night for Republicans is to take that seat and get to 11. A great night for Democrats would be to grab 1. A disastrous night for Republicans would be to lose 3. I don't know that I see losing 3. I do think I could see losing 1. They're all suburban seats. It's going to be under the national mood. Let's talk about P reform, Kelton. Before we do, I didn't want to put our man on the spot here because I didn't want to ask him what hotel he should stay in because he's running for office, and you might have the guys that run the Capitol Plaza or something not like it. But Courtyard by Marriott, the only place to stay. Do yourself a favor. Don't suck. Come in for the State's Woman of the Year event. Book your hotel rooms now. And if you text me, sometimes Randolph has a room. So text me, but I can't guarantee it. I mean, the place is great. Just call randomly today. See if you can get a room for tonight. There's no chance. But if you need one, text me. I'll do what I can do. Sometimes I can find one. Sometimes, they can take a broom closet and put a cot in for you. But sometimes, it's just, is what it is. United Fiber, I got to give a man, Doug Beck, he's one of those work for a living Democrats. One of the Steins, the good folks up there, Jim and the crew do a great job. And I got this Kelton. Did you know the first person to get one of these?
I don't.
Was Roy Blunt. Yeah. Got my name here. Look at this. I'm telling you, of the things I've got, you all have been so kind to me. I have an entire Stein collection thanks to you. I have some of these great signs and stuff. I got my little Chris Koster. For my Lincoln Day speech, I secretly ripped off a bunch of Chris Koster's old lines from when he ran for governor. Herbicide and pesticide, I always thought was outstanding. But no, this means a lot to me. Thank you to the folks at the co-ops. I take this very seriously. I'm very honored to have this. It will be prominently displayed in here. I'm just not exactly sure. We're just going to have to do a redo, aren't we? I mean,
we're running out of real estate real fast.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure something out. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about us. So on the IP, look, I'll just tell you what I think happened. Let me take my hat off. Caleb might not want to own this opinion. I want to put it on the Chris Jones. Auction, March 5th, right in here. Stuff like the Chris Jones signed helmet. You're going to love it. IP reform. This is what I think happened, Kelton. I think maybe I have a high regard for the political acumen of Jim Lemke, of Bill Eigel, Denny Hoskins. I think they picked this issue. I don't totally know why. But this was the issue that they picked as their big deal. My talk with Doug, didn't he just sit here and argue with me? Now, Doug Beck knows damn good and well they did squirrely shit with that Clean Missouri so that you thought you was voting on some other ethics reform or something, but they was trying to do a new way to draw districts, which again, I complimented their strategy the whole time. I thought it was brilliant. I think it was what it was. It was liberals that want more liberal legislators. And look, if you are liberal, there is nothing wrong with that. They didn't break any laws. They did politics, right? And I thought the court should have said no. Mike Moon you notice Mike Moon didn't vote on that amendment yesterday. Mike Moon's whole civic career has been, hey, single subject bills. He's right. It would be better public policy if they listened to Mike Moon. But they didn't on this, right? They jumbled all this silly stuff like, illegals can't. Well, illegal immigrants can't vote now. But whatever, it's good politics. I get it. Again, this is Clean Missouri. I understand what it is, and I respect it. It's good idea. So they get this thing on the floor. Mike Searpoy comes on. He actually passes the version that actually goes. So Searpoy puts his out there. Everything works fine. On the vote, Eigel, it was all choreographed. I'm going to tell you what I think. I think concurrent majorities have serious legal questions. If I had to guess, as a person who is not a lawyer, as a person who pretty much just breaks laws, is really the only way I know much about them. I believe concurrent majority will get booted out in court. I think that not only do the Democrats think that, I think some of the Republicans that voted for this system think that. I think they're all fine with that. I think this is it. If you want to talk about the uniparty, this is the uniparty. Everybody in the room kind of looks around, winks, and it is what it is. I think this has become an absolute game, and I feel sorry. It's almost like that 7-1 map thing. I almost felt sorry for the people sitting up in the gallery at 1 a.m. for something that was, I don't know that it was ever. I think IP reform ministers. I personally think it should be harder to amend the Constitution. I think it should be harder for the legislature to change a statute passed by the voters. I think there's room for reasonable people to do a deal that makes the state better. I'll give you, maybe take a pull here. Thank you again, buddy, for this Stein. My Steinem knowledge prediction. Dean Plocker has folks raising hell for him to put this ballot candy, just the silly bullshit to distract folks. Good politics, but it's meaningless bullshit. He's got a lot of pressure to load this up and send it back over. If that's what they do, I could see a PQ at the end of session on this, which would be terrible. PQs are for reps. If you love the state of Missouri, thank the Missouri Senate. The greatest way to destroy this state, no matter what your views are, is the PQ. If you are a left-wing Democrat, the PQ is bad. If you're a right-wing Republican, the PQ is bad because at some point you'll get the government you hate. The only thing that makes this state cling to any ounce of sanity is the Missouri State Senate and the fact that they have free and fair debate and the fact you have to compromise and try things. We're the show me state. Try it. We might like it. We might not. But if we try it, we can limit the damage. And if it's great, we can exacerbate the good. I would say there's a curse of the PQ, the concurrent jurisdiction for the prosecutors. The House didn't even hear it. The SJR 39s, there was a homophobic type. I don't say something about gay people and cakes or something. The House didn't even pass it. Right to work was PQ. The voters overwhelmingly overturned it. The PQ is a curse. There's a reason. The good Lord loves Missouri, and that's why he curses those who do the PQ. I heard representatives, well, That's what you call a senator that signs a PQ, a representative. They were kind of referencing yesterday, dangerous, slippery slope. I'm going to tell you right now, there's two people who should think very long and very hard about a PQ, and that's Senator Joe Carter and Senator Mike Moon. Senator Mike Moon was a rep, and they would just roll their eyes, and he was irrelevant. He talked about it in interviews with me. He comes to Senate. No senator is irrelevant because of the rules, because of the PQ. If Mike Moon votes for a PQ, it is a turkey voting for Thanksgiving. The person that will be screwed the most by destroying the Senate is Mike Moon. Right now, Mike Moon go on the Senate floor, read a book, do whatever. And he has the rules and the traditions to back him up. You destroy those traditions. It's not going to be, you may think by turning the Senate into a mini house, you're not really getting Mike Searpoy. He'll be in the majority. It'll be Mike Moon who becomes irrelevant. It'll be Jill Carter, who right now they have to listen to her about education. She has really innovative ideas. I'm not expert enough to know if they work or not, but they're different. A different voice is finally talking. Instead of it being charters versus public, if she votes for PQs and destroys the Senate, they don't have to care what she thinks. They'll say, well, vote no or whatever. Just shut up. It'll be the House. Like Ashley Awney. I don't know. They told her to shut up. They can do that in the House because it's the House and there's no rules. You turn the Senate into that, it will not. If you turn the Senate, you're not getting Cindy O'Loughlin by making her PQ stuff. If she just turned into a mini House, she'll be the mini speaker next year. And you're hurting Jill Carter and Mike Moon. Nick Shore will find a way to land on the majority side, if I had to guess. You're hurting those two senators more than anyone else. And the senators that may have their views after you're cursing them. So if I had to guess that'll happen, let's say it doesn't, I would say the courts take their time and rule concurrent majorities unconstitutional by the 4th of July. I would say there is a nightmare scenario for Republicans where the governor decides to put IP reform on in August, and that moves the abortion to November. Once he has to make these decisions and the timelines to make them, even if he waits to the last day, if I had to guess, put them in a terrible position of, okay, we'll do this one to try to affect that one. If somehow the courts don't rule this unconstitutional and it's a clean version, I think he gets beaten soundly. I think there'll be very organized opposition. It won't just be liberal groups. It'll be folks like the realtors who have said, we're going to take this out. Don't call Sam Licklider's bluff. Nobody grows old calling Sam Licklider's bluff. So we'll see. I personally think IP reform should happen. I think it's a good thing. I think big things are hard to do. This is gonna be hard to do no matter how you do it. The ballot candy stuff I think helps, but it's not like it's a guarantee. If you get the ballot candy in, I think the odds go up significantly to pass it. We'll see what happens though. I'm optimistic about the Kelton. I'm optimistic that the House sends them something. I would say it's possible they just go and pass the Senate bill and get it done. I would say it's maybe a little more likely they go put a bunch of crap in it or put Senator Searpoy's bill they have now. I mean, I guess Senator Coleman's name's on it, but I mean, Senator Searpoy did an amendment that redid everything. So I'd say they're going to fish it out and find the right way through. If I'm Speaker Plocker, I don't think Speaker Plocker thinks he owes the Senate a damn thing. So why not? Why would you care if you put them in a bad spot? They don't care about putting you in a bad spot. So that'll be interesting to see how it comes. I bet they get something out. I think if they do if they do 55, 57, 60%, I think they're fine. But lawyers who are pro-life, lawyers who have litigated pro-life things have said this current majority won't pass muster. Again, why not try it? Sure, makes sense. But I'm pessimistic it makes it to the courts. I'm pessimistic it makes it through to the ballot. If it's on the ballot, we'll see where it goes. Thank you all for watching. We will see you Sunday